And I'm also taking what I'm saying is that you are just smarter than me in a lot of ways with this shit. So fuck you. I'm going to stick by my shit.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah! So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Halloween edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. That's right. It's your old pal Walsh. I am the host tonight. How do I normally do this intro? It is still Halloween. This is part 2. I'm here with Rodgers. God, I'm doing terrible here. Rodgers, how's it going?
Boo-boo. Scary, scary. That's all I got.
That's right. We are here for part 2 of the Week 9 preview. We just finished part 1, a little inside baseball there. And now we're on to part 2. I have switched up my drink to instead of just like the terrible pink lemonade vodka over ice, I have switched up to regular vodka and like a LaCroix knockoff mixed together.
Okay.
So
you've come a long way from the mixing pop off with Ocean Spray grapefruit juice like back in our college days.
Yeah, I mean honestly, this is reminding me why I don't really drink vodka anymore.
Yeah.
But again, there's a bunch of it on top of my fridge, and it needs to get had at some point. And we don't have a ton of parties, and we don't have a ton of parties with like girls in their early 20s, who I feel like is the general target for vodka. Or like, it's weird. So like in San Francisco, it's like girls in their early 20s, or like dudes who really like raves. They're like both all about vodka.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm getting really off.
Yeah, I put your pink lemonade vodka drink in like the low end flex play of podcast drinks.
Yeah, I would say I won't start it again. I think that's where I'll go with that one.
Okay.
But anyway, we are on the Week 9 preview part 2. And so we've got 6 games here coming at you. So without any further ado, I think we should just really get into it. And we're going to start with 2 games that I think are 2 of the best fantasy games, or 2 of the most important games in terms of fantasy performances of the week. So we're going to start here with Detroit at Oakland. This is Oakland's first home game since week 2. How about that?
Wow. Did not know that. That's crazy.
They had the one home game in London, and then other than that, they were just on the road. It's like,
wow.
What a fucking terrible job of scheduling. But
also good for them being where they are.
Yeah, that's a good point. They've played pretty well, and I think that's part of the reason why Oakland is a 2-point favorite in this game, and the over-under here is 50.5. So we're expecting some points because Detroit's defense is not anything to write home about, and Oakland's run defense is okay, but their pass defense is downright terrible. So we're looking at a lot of plays here. We'll start on the Detroit side of the ball. I mean, Matt Stafford is like an obvious one here, right? He's been great this year.
Yeah, and he's especially been great over the last like 3 or 4 weeks. He's been slinging, throwing multiple, mostly 3 touchdown games. Great matchup. It's perfect. He's a top 10 running back, or a quarterback rather, top 12 rather, I should say. Yeah, good stream.
Yeah, I mean, I give a lot of shit to Matt Patricia for being a run-first guy, and in his defense, he's really adjusted his offense this year, and this past week really proved it to me, where they're really willing to throw the ball down the field. In terms of their running backs, it was a real disappointment this past week if you picked up Ty Johnson, which I know a lot of people did, because Trey Carson ended up starting, and they did a 4 running back rotation. That sucks, but there is some good news if you picked up Ty Johnson and did not immediately drop him out of frustration like I did in 2 leagues this past week. The good news is that they cut Paul Perkins, who featured in a little bit, and now Trey Carson was added to the injury report midweek. So monitor that. But it's possible this is down to a 2-headed running game if and only if that is the case, because I think if Trey Carson is active, none of them are playable. But if that's the case, are you at all interested in Ty Johnson or J.D. McKissic?
I'll say that I'm not, and I'll preface this by saying, as a Kerryon Johnson owner last week, I did not think that there was any reason to believe that Ty Johnson was going to be like a very viable starting running back. Yes, I had waiver claims in for him and wanted to get him, but when he completely busted, why did you think that he would? What was there saying that that you were confident in the outcome that you played him on. So right now, the Oakland defense, like and you know more than this as a Raiders fan, arguably the greatest attribute to the Oakland Raiders team is their run defense has been pretty sneaky good, actually. Their front has been decent. I don't see anything, regardless of Trey Carson being active or inactive, I just don't see any reason or any sort of inclination or any play on paper that you should play any of these guys.
Yeah, I'm not against you at all there. Like you said with Ty Johnson, I think what I said to Vinny last week was like, they've never made carry on the bell cow. Why the fuck would they do it now with his backup? Right. And that's exactly what happened really there. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to start Ty Johnson if he's the only, if it's just him and McKissick. I think the volume might be a good reason to, but I don't think it's a necessary start. And I'm right with you. I thought, on sites like DraftKings or that sort of thing where, you need to pick your running backs. I picked no Ty Johnson last week because I thought it was like extremely low floor, and that's what ended up happening. So yeah, don't trust Patricia.
Yeah. If you listen to the first podcast, I put him honestly in the Alexander Madison range, where I'm more confident that Alexander Madison can get 9 points than Ty Johnson can. And that says a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong there at all. The Detroit pass catchers, am I wrong to say that, and I mean, I think it's in this order, but I think you can roll out, depending on your desperation levels and who you have in front, Galladay, Amendola, and Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I don't feel as good about Amendola. I think that there's slightly safer plays, but I think that an Amendola play makes just as much sense as anybody in that range of like flex, wide receiver 4 sort of thing. And I'll say this right now, and I would never say this otherwise unless it was true. The week that Marvin Jones caught the 4 touchdowns, I kind of tried to trade Joe for Marvin Jones. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I feel like Marvin Jones is going to have a good week with Vikings and Xavier Rhodes on Galladay, which wasn't the actual narrative, but he played really, really well. And I always hated that I did not get in on Marvin Jones enough, and I can't play the DraftKings game, or I would have. But I like Marvin Jones as a good low-end wide receiver 3. Galladay's a stud. And Amendola, I think I agree with you that he's got just as much upside as anybody in that tier of where he's going.
Manny Sanders just got in the end zone. Get fucked.
With 4 seconds left in the half?
Yeah, it was the last play of the half.
I traded you him 3 days ago.
Yes, you did.
It was so stupid. For Rita.
Sorry, going back to the Giants.
Wait. No, I'm kidding. Go on. Move
on. So the reason I'm on Amendola is because he has at least 8 targets in each of the past 2 weeks, and the target totals were 8 and 11. So I think that's worth it. I mean, he leads the team in targets over those past 2 weeks. I think it's a solid play. I do agree that Galladay is the elite play out of all of them, and Marvin Jones is just always a boom bust guy. So, take that as you will. Are you at all interested in TJ Hawkinson?
I am, but let me ask you this real quick. Are you more interested in Amendola in daily fantasy or fantasy matchups? Because I feel like you're pitching on a daily.
No, I honestly, so for my daily purposes, I play mostly large field tournaments, so I'm looking guys who I think can explode. I don't think Amendola is going to explode. I think he offers a very, very nice PPR floor as a slot receiver with 19 targets over the past 2 weeks. The guy has 16 catches over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. I just wanted to challenge you a little bit and ask what you thought on that.
No, that's fair.
To answer your question, Hawkinson, if you're a guy that owns Hawkinson, he's completely busted after week 1. Oakland is pretty bad against the tight end. I think they're the 3rd worst defense against the tight end yardage and touchdowns. Totally fine rollout this week, I think. But, again, he's in that tight end 12 range. But if you're going to play him, why not this week? Makes the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, this week makes a lot of sense. I'm just not on Hawkinson really at all. I mean, because like you said, he hasn't really been anything since week 1. So I'm staying away, but I mean, if there is a week, it's this week.
See, but I like that too, because if you say that you don't like Hawkinson as a player, that makes a lot of sense, where I'm kind of like leaning towards that majority decision solely because of the paper matchup.
Right. Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense there. Let's move to the Oakland side of the ball. What do you think about Derek Carr this week?
I like Derek Carr. I'm starting Derek Carr against you as a Raiders fan with a Derek Carr, Darren Waller fat stack. Last week, I had a choice between Mason Rudolph and Daniel Jones, and I respected the Lions' defense a little bit too much and started Mason Rudolph over.
Oh, that did not
Jones.
pay off for you.
Oh, it did not pay off, literally at all. And I watched that entire game with Lions fans, actually, and realized the Lions' defense is, like, fine. They're okay. Derek Carr is like a high-end streamer, low-end quarterback one this week, and with the buys the way they are, and if you're a Jared Goff guy or you've been kind of fucked by Matt Ryan and his whole situation, I think that Derek Carr is a good streaming start.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are pretty easy the rest of the way, and like they kind of have been easy the entire season. In good matchups, Carr is a viable start, and then Jacobs, Waller, and Tyrell Williams are guys you can start every single week.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you a little bit about Tyrell Williams. Last week, all the leagues that I was in, I checked, and Tyrell Williams was sat across the board by everybody.
I don't think that's the worst thing in the world because he was coming off injury and he was, I believe, questionable going into the game. And it's easy to forget about a guy like that going into that sort of game. I think it's an easy thing to call a mistake in hindsight, if that makes sense.
Yes, okay, that's definitely fair. I also think that, like, when I looked at it, I was not a Tyrell Williams believer going into the year. And by week 4 or 5, I was, solely because every single week it was like, no 150-yard games, no big play potential or like big play leaning like he was with the Chargers, that he was just 60 yards and a touchdown. He scored a touchdown like each of the first 5 weeks, I feel like, had that consistency. And then this week when he came back, and I get why you maybe would fade him, but did exactly that again. Just like can't speak to exactly what he did, 65 yards and a touchdown. Like he's arguably, not talking like Cooper Kupp, big play potential, but he's arguably the most consistent top 20 to 30 wide receiver in football right now in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, him and Waller both have sort of been that thing up until this past week with Waller, where like they've just, 6 to 8 catches for something from 50 to 90 yards and like maybe a touchdown, Right.
So if you sat him last week, like no harm, no foul, I get why you did it. But why would you sit him again this week? Because I think he's a guaranteed 14 PPR points.
Yeah, the argument is Darius Slay, and it's not a good enough argument.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Not a good enough argument.
All right, who you got in this one?
I will take Oakland.
I am also taking the Raiders. Talking about scary, dude. You want to go to a game at the fucking Oakland Coliseum? You'll see some scary-ass shit there.
Oh, yeah, I have no vested interest, but I just know that I will get killed. I just have that look about me.
You'll see guys in spiked shoulder pads and guys in scary outfits and also people with guns and also the entire parking lot smells like weed at all times. Yeah. It's kind of heaven on earth, honestly.
All of those people don't like me.
That's fair. All right, let's move on to the other game that I think is, one of the biggest fantasy relevant games of this week, and that's Tampa Bay at Seattle. Seattle here is a 6-point favorite at home. The over-under is 51.5. Tampa Bay, man, like this Seattle defense isn't shit. This is a good matchup to run out Jameis, to run out Mike Evans, to run out Chris Godwin. Dare I say Cameron Brate?
All right. This game stresses me out more than any other game this whole week.
Why?
Because I have never been a Bucs guy, ever. Like, I had like Cameron Brate love for a while, never been a Mike Evans guy, never been a Jameis guy, never been a Chris Godwin guy. It always makes sense and it works how it should. But I just so I'm sorry. I picked up and started Jameis in our league this week, right? And I look at it as like Jameis is good because he plays terribly against bad defense or good defenses and plays well against bad defenses, right? But I just feel like this is the week that I'm not basing this off of anything other than my own fear and insecurities, but I just feel like this is a blow-up game that could go. I have no idea how this game is going to go, literally at all. And it makes sense that it should be a fucking 45 to 41 point game, but I have no I have no faith that anybody knows what is going to happen in this game.
See, now you're scaring me because to me this game was just to start everyone who you normally would but Chris Carson because Tampa Bay's got a great run defense and a terrible pass defense.
Well, you're not going to start Chris Carson, though?
I mean, I am, but, like, I'm upset about it, you know?
You're talking to a guy that is starting Mark Walton in 4 of his 6 leagues, dude.
Yeah.
Shut your fucking face.
Sorry, that was not the correct way of phrasing that.
Some nickels and shillings if you got them, dude.
Maybe some fucking shillings. Tuppence for a cup of soup, sir.
Please, sir. You have running backs.
Yeah, you're not sitting Chris Carson. That was
you're not fucking sitting Chris Carson. You know what I would do to have Chris Carson this week? Fuck you, dude. In one league, I'm starting Devin Singletary, Mark Walton, and Royce Freeman. And also, little thing, in that league, I am actually in second place and first in points for because I have McCaffrey and Gurley. But that is where the running back pool is in situations like this.
Wait, McCaffrey's not on a bye. How are you doing that?
Oh, wait a minute. I have to check my lineup, dude. You're right. McCaffrey's not on a bye. But regardless, I have been tricked and not treated.
It's a good thing I'm here as a treat to tell you. Yeah, sorry. Carson saying sit Carson was not the correct call. Obviously, you are playing Chris Carson. You know, it's a bad matchup for him. I think the point is that, like, I mean, any game with Jameis in it can go sideways because he can just throw a bunch of interceptions and pick sixes and, like, all of a sudden the game is completely not what you expected. Right. But, like, even if that happens, then the game becomes a shootout on Tampa Bay's side and you still love Godwin, you still love Evans. Yeah. If that happens and the Seahawks are unable to run effectively on the Bucs, then you still like Lockett and you still like Metcalf. So for me, you like all the quarterbacks and all the primary wide receivers in this game. You can maybe throw out Cameron Brate, and then you play Carson and you stay the fuck away from Rojo and Peyton Barber.
Yeah, and just to say something hardcore is that I think that what you are saying could be the correct outcome. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Carson didn't really do that well, but on paper, you have to start him in this climate of what it is.
I mean, he's a guy who's getting like 20 to 27 touches a game. Like, you don't sit that.
That's so unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's so unprecedented. And I agree with you is that Godwin, I feel like people are like hyping up Godwin, but people are not hyping up Godwin enough still. Like, this dude is like a number one wide receiver hard.
Him and Evans are wide receivers 2 and 4 right now.
Right. But also Godwin does not have that zeros and like 2 points that Evans puts up. And like they're both equally valuable, but like Godwin is in the Cooper Kupp range of the most valuable draft pick that anyone has in the draft this year.
Yeah, I mean, him and Cooper Kupp are the two guys who are really that discussion. I think.
So everything you're saying is correct. It's a start everybody game, but I wouldn't be shocked if that it just doesn't go how the fuck you think it should all the way around.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Like I said, any sort of Jameis Winston game can go sideways very quickly. So, you know what I heard brought up on a podcast today actually was with the Raiders moving to Vegas and Jameis and Carr's contracts both being up and like Gruden maybe like wanting to move on from Carr, you get Jameis at the head of the Las Vegas Raiders. Fuck me.
Oh my God.
The biggest gambling quarterback in the league as the head of the Las Vegas team. I want it just for the narrative. And I don't even hate Carr that much. I'm like very indifferent on him. But
yeah, but also Gruden's arteries would not last.
Oh no, Gruden would be dead within weeks.
Yeah. But I agree with you. Start everybody.
Okay, yes. Back to the important stuff. All right, let's who are you taking here?
With the spread, I'm gonna take Tampa Bay +6, but I think Seattle wins the game.
I am also going to take Tampa Bay +6 here. All right, Cleveland at Denver. Cleveland is -3 on the road. The over-under is 39. The big news of this game is that Joe Flacco has a bulging disc and is out 4 to 6 weeks.
Joe Webb?
It's going to be Brandon Allen.
Oh, not Joe Webb. Those are the old days.
I wish it was Joe Webb. What team is Joe Webb even on? Wasn't he a Panther the last time we saw him?
I think he's gone. I feel like he was somewhere else. But
yeah.
Was he not there? Was he a Ravens backup at some point? Or am I crazy?
He might have been. I don't know. I hope he emerges in the XFL and becomes their best quarterback. But for now, we have Brandon Allen, who played at Arkansas and was thoroughly unremarkable. He's the type of guy who you just really don't care about very much at all. And who knows? Maybe he proves me wrong. Opinions on quarterbacks who haven't played it down in the NFL are as close to worthless as you can pretty much get. I was trying to think of a Halloween pun for that other than Almond Joys. They're like getting a fun-sized Twizzler. Is that a thing? I don't know.
I would also equate it to people hate on when they get raisins at a trick or treat place, but eat raisins. They're okay.
See,
They're serviceable.
Raisins, no. Craisins, yes, but no one ever gives them out on
raisins are put in an unfavorable context because raisins are good day to day, but you get them on Halloween and you're like, fuck this.
You know, it's also probably my favorite dish of all time. It's one of my mom's recipes where she bakes chicken with it's barbecue sauce and honey and raisins on it. It's the best thing in the world. And it has raisins. So raisins can be good in context. I'm giving them unnecessary shit. Brandon Allen is a raisin.
But that's a bad raisin. Bordering prune.
Yeah, he's like a prune. We don't like him. I don't think it's going to be good for anyone on Denver. We'll start on the Cleveland side here, though. This really isn't a great matchup either way. The Denver defense, while not spectacular, is not bad, and they've quietly gotten a lot more pressure on the quarterback over the past few weeks than they did in the beginning of the season. That doesn't bode well for Baker. This is another game where I'm going to shoulder shrug this one. I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, Baker is worthless in fantasy at this point.
Yes, correct.
OBJ, you have to play. Don't love it. Chubb, you have to play. That's it about the Browns. That's all I got to say. Will Ricky Seals-Jones probably catch 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game? Then, yeah, probably. But
is there a point where we give up on OBJ at any point?
You can't. No.
Chris Harris is going to shadow him this week, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's why did people play Juju forever? Or when you said hold on to DeAndre Hopkins, yes, a better decision. You cannot fade OBJ. You just can't.
Yeah, you're right.
You can't. And honestly, if you're a team that drafted him, sorry, but you're probably going to be finishing in 6th or 7th place in your league.
Yeah, but you're not wrong.
That's just what happened.
2 leagues where I drafted David Johnson and OBJ first 2 rounds, and I was like, how did I get away with that? I thought it was the heist of the century in both leagues.
Yeah. Well, fuck you. I don't care.
Anyway, you're right on Chubb, though. Also, Chubb's 2 fumbles last week. This is another the Patriots are Patriots sacrifice goats to Satan every single week, I'm sure. Yeah. Because fucking Nick Chubb had not had a fumble since his junior year of college. It's his 2nd year in the pros, and he has 2 fumbles in 1 game. Are you serious?
But he also still put up a decent fantasy total.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the Patriots.
Yeah, Nick Chubb's a stud, dude. He's really good.
I can't hate on the Patriots ever. I love them.
Denver side of the ball, we have Brandon Allen playing. Are you downgrading Lindsey and Freeman because of that?
Well, sorry, not to get too crazy, but we know we're talking about OBJ and Chubb, but how do you feel about Jarvis Landry? I wanted to ask you that.
I think he has maybe a better chance of having a good game this week than OBJ does with Chris Harris on him.
Okay. I know that Denver's the number 1 defense against the slot. I don't trust Jarvis Landry's upside to compensate for that matchup, and I don't want to touch it. And I've never wanted to own Jarvis Landry past couple of years, and I just want to put my foot down that fade it.
Yes, I like that take.
Okay, so Broncos. Cleveland sucks, I think. And I think Denver's going to actually go up kind of big a little bit early in this game, and their run defense is not great on the Brown side of the ball. Lindsey's getting 17 touches on average per game, and now Freeman's starting to get involved in the passing game. I like both these guys. I do.
I'm trying to tell myself oh, you shouldn't like them because it's Brandon Allen at quarterback. But then again, before it was fucking Joe Flacco at quarterback.
Yeah,
so whatever. What's the huge difference there? You're right. I'm in on both of them. What about Cortland Sutton? Do we still buy him?
I buy in way less. I love Cortland Sutton, but if you have better options, I think this is the week to play him more. Like, I'd rather play Kenny Stills on a higher upside than Cortland Sutton. I don't think Cortland Sutton does anything fantastic. You hope that he hits a good floor.
Okay, I think I agree with you there. Noah Fant is a streamer, yes, no.
Yeah, fine. In the way where I'd rather have everybody that we talked about over him, Fells, Johnny Smith, whatever the fuck.
So that means no.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, but I think that there's situations where if you're deciding between Johnny Smith and Noah Fant, I don't think you can go wrong. I like Johnny Smith better, but I'm not going to be like, fucking idiot, you started Noah Fant over Johnny Smith, like, whatever. It's whatever. Yeah. When you get past tight end 6, like, it's literally fucking whatever.
Yeah, go play Dallas Goedert. Like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, like, Dallas Goedert would be a better choice the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever.
For what it's worth, I had a dream a couple nights ago that Noah Fant became an extremely dominant tight end over the second half of the season. Also, for what it's worth, I do not like him at all, and I don't think that's going to happen. It was one of the most perplexing dreams that I've ever had because, like, normally you would think that would happen with a guy that I actually think is good. And, like, I have never thought Noah Fant was, like, going to be good this year.
See, but what I want to point out is that in this tight end pool and its climate is that if you say something like that to me, that is enough to go on be a differentiator for real. Because I also had a dream like 3 weeks ago that David Johnson got hurt, and it didn't happen for 2 more weeks, and then it happened. But
so what you're saying is week 11, Noah Fant just becomes a fucking stud. Yeah. Maybe the Noah Fant.
If I had Johnny Smith in a lineup, I would drop him right now for Noah Fant solely because your dream is worth more than any other fucking variable that I can quantify. For real.
Maybe the Brandon Allen Noah Fant connection is like it's like the Rock and Sock connection with like Dwayne Johnson and Mick Foley. Like it's
and
right
tell
there.
Tell me no. You can't.
You can't say no to Fant.
Fuck, that was awesome. That ruled.
All right, now that we've gotten to that, Scoob, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back with the last 3 games of the week.
Have you thought about trying sports betting but aren't sure how it'll go? Our friends at FanDuel are giving away a $50 sign-up bonus at letstalkfantasyfootball.com/FanDuel-sportsbook.
All right, guys, we are back, and Rodgers has once again informed me over the break that we did not pick the game that we were talking about before the break. So Cleveland at Denver with Cleveland a 3-point favorite. Who you got here?
Denver. Always anti-Cleveland right now.
I'm going to go Cleveland.
Okay, that sucks for you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say there.
Spooky-ass picks.
The Cleveland Browns. If you say everything in Dracula voice, does it count as scary?
It does.
Okay. All right, let's get on to the last 3 games of the week.
Fuck.
We're going to start with the Packers at the Chargers. The Packers are a 3.5-point favorite on the road. The over-under here is 47 points. On the Packers side of the ball, they have been rolling ass, dude. They have been playing so good, and they've been doing all of it through their 2 running backs, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, but weirdly not entirely on the ground. They've just been like the number 1 pass targets for Aaron Rodgers. Does this continue even if Devontae Adams comes back?
I'd say that I don't know if it could continue as consistently as it does, but just to give you some context, you know our friend Deemer, he called me today and asked me if he should make a trade. Someone wanted to trade him a wide receiver that he needed, and they asked him for either Mark Walton or Jamal Williams, right? And I said that he should keep Jamal Williams and trade Mark Walton because it is so rare that someone like Jamal Williams can have consistent success, whether it's the passing game. And like you saw that touchdown, that receiving touchdown against the Chiefs, like toe touching in the back of the end zone at what everyone thought was a throwaway. You can't count on things like that. But Jamal Williams has had consistent success in a situation where Aaron Jones has had consistent elite success.
Yes.
And that is something that you can't buy. And I think that Jamal Williams is a really solid, like, running back to low end just because of the upside of that. And I like both of them going forward. I think they're both startable all the way. I mean, Aaron Jones obviously is, but I think Jamal Williams is flex worthy for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I'm a little bit concerned because I think both of them are a little bit over their head in terms of touchdowns the past couple of weeks. So between the two of them over the past 2 weeks, they have 5 receiving touchdowns.
Oh, yes. I agree that, like, their production has been the, like, right end of the spectrum for a fantasy owner. That is not something that is, like, sustainable. But the tone of the pack, like Aaron Jones for the last like 2.5, 3 years has been clear cut the best running back and the best like offensive weapon of Devontae Adams in that offense. But they still fall on Jamal Williams. So I think that they're both safer than a lot of other options as far as upside and floor, as far as what they can do. I don't think you can count on what they've done. 38 points last week in half-point PPR from Aaron Jones and like 17 or 18 from Jamal Williams. That's not the standard, but there's very few running backs that are in as good of a situation for a workload and as good of an offense as they are.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. It's hard to get off of either of them at this point. With Adams back, I wonder if the offense changes a little bit, maybe runs a little bit more through him. But we'll see. It's also possible that he does not come back, in which case we're dealing with another week of the weird Lazard, Kumaro, Allison, Valdez-Scantling type of wide receiver core. Do you have any confidence in any of them?
Yeah. So what I'll say is, just to fall back, is that the Packers have been really, really good with exactly what they're doing. And while I agree with you that I would not expect what happened last week to happen with either of these running backs regularly, I think that it's one of the safer bets in fantasy football, right? Past Devontae Adams as a Packers guy, I think the own that I would rather have right now is Jay Kumaro. Because I'm a guy that had MVS a lot in a lot of different places. And I think that it's spread around too much, that Kumaro has the best upside potential of that core. Like, you're not going to start Lazard. MVS is so boom or bust, and his target share isn't quite there. Geronimo is bad, I think. I don't think he's a great football player. And over the last, like, 4 or 5 weeks, Kumaro has got Aaron Rodgers has, like, the best passer rating to him. I think that he was a guy that they liked for a couple of years and just never put it together, and he's starting to come around. And I think he's a good stash, but I'm not starting anybody other than Adams going forward. Even if Adams is inactive this next week, I don't want to start any of those Packers wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, just for reference here, the snap percentage between the 4 of them, Lazard, this past week, that is, Lazard leads it with 67%, and Kumaro is in 4th with 51%. Allison and Valdez-Scantling are in the middle of that. So, like, fuck that. I am not dealing with it.
Right. And I think if you, like, watch all the Packers games, you would bet that by week 14, fantasy aside, that Kumaro is the most valuable wide receiver past Devontae Adams in that offense.
That's definitely fair. I mean, I think he's the best out of those guys.
Right. Exactly. So I don't think you can touch it. All of them can be ownable. They're all good stashes, but I think Kumaro could provide the best value.
Okay. And I mean, obviously we didn't really say it explicitly, but Rodgers is a great play this week and pretty much every week going forward. Yeah. Let's go to the Chargers side of the ball. The Packers defense has been interesting this year, I will say. I mean, they've given up a lot to the run, but kind of less so lately. And then the pass defense started off really, really good, and the pass rush was great. That's also been a little bit less so lately. I don't really know what to make of them, but the Chargers are even maybe more of a conundrum on offense than the Packers are on defense. Like, are you playing Phillip Rivers over like a fucking Sam Darnold or like Jacoby Brissett this week?
I put him in that same tier just because from watching the Packers defense, while they have been really good, especially in the secondary, like you just said, they have underwhelming moments. I think that a veteran quarterback like Rivers can make something work within that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think like experienced football players can make it work. I don't love Rivers as a huge boom guy. I put him in that like quarterback 13 Darnold range, but I wouldn't fade him in the way that you might be respecting the Packers defense, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. In terms of the running backs, Gordon and Eckler are pretty much splitting snaps. Gordon looks fucking terrible. He's gotten in the end zone a couple times. Eckler inexplicably had 5 touches this past week, got in the end zone, so it made it okay. But like sites like ESPN are projecting Eckler for 13 points. How the fuck are you going to project a guy with 5 touches for 13 points?
Yeah, I think they're hedging their bets there. I still think Eckler is the better play. If you're going to play Gordon and you have been playing Gordon, this is a good matchup for it. I haven't been able to address me and Vinny when we podcasted when Gordon first came back, and I told him Gordon was going to be a whack-ass bitch. And he was like, oh, who is that? Is that the new Keyshawn Johnson?
I think it was Christian Kirk, but I could be wrong.
No, it was definitely Johnson.
Is it?
Yeah, I saw that. Kyler throwing touchdown.
Oh, yeah, that is Johnson. Okay, cool.
But what were we talking about? Where were we?
We were talking about Eckler and Gordon.
Yeah. If you've been ripping Gordon and you've been ripping Eckler, you have to this week still. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think, and I think they're both good plays.
I'm against playing either of them. But
really, even Eckler?
Yeah, I mean, I'm benching him for Preston Williams.
See, I think that's crazy. Solely because of this. Again, you're going on paper fine, but what has Preston Williams showed you ever? And when I look at Austin Eckler, I see that you're a logical play all the time and a great football player, and then on a day where you'll get only 5 touches, you still bring me value. I can't take the unknown over that. That's just me.
I'm taking that as the 5 touches being way over his head and not sustainable.
Yeah. And I'm also taking what I'm saying is that you are just smarter than me in a lot of ways with this shit. So fuck you. I'm going to stick by my shit. So.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I very much could be wrong on that take. The Chargers running backs right now, make me nauseous. I can't go anywhere near them.
So who would you rather play?
Probably Gordon in this matchup.
Really?
Because
I mean, if you believe that
they're force feeding him carries. I think Eckler's a way better football player, but they're literally force feeding him carries. So what am I gonna do? Stand on the sideline and say Eckler's the better player into the void, or watch Gordon get 16 touches compared to Eckler's 5?
And you're right too, because when Mahomes went down, I kind of thought that the Chargers would just lock it in and be like, fuck. Whatever we're supposed to do, we can actually take this division. And then that was when Eckler started to get faded out still, and I didn't get it. So I can't disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation is just really hard to read, and there's no right or wrong answer to it. I don't think.
And the Chargers are going to be 7-9 anyway. So
yeah, they're that's the other thing is they're about due to start going on their late season streak where they almost make the playoffs but don't make the playoffs. So yeah. We'll see. Chargers pass catchers. Hunter Henry had a bit of a down week. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams have been pretty disappointing the past couple of weeks, but have also had peripheral statistics that would suggest that they're going to get better. Is this the week where they get better?
Not Mike Williams, I don't think. I don't think you can trust that at all. I keep comparing to Cole Beasley. I'd rather start Cole Beasley. I think it's safer. Mike Williams hasn't done enough to show me that his boom or bust potential is worth gambling. Keenan Allen, though, you gotta, believe it.
Okay. I don't think that's wrong. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Mike Williams is a guy who, I'm a big believer in air yards and percentage of air yards and that sort of thing. And the air yards say that he should break out pretty soon. But I've been saying that for 3 weeks straight. So
do you think that it's potentially correct that Mike Williams is just a healthy Kevin White?
Wow, that's a harsh call.
Spooky.
I mean,
I think he's just a Kevin White that plays.
I think he's better than Kevin White, but I don't necessarily think that he's in a good matchup or anything like that.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It's tough, man. I'm not willing to play him this week. I do think Keenan Allen is a guy that you continue to play, even though Jair Alexander is a very good cornerback. And at tight end, obviously, Hunter Henry is still a guy that you're rolling out.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about in the last podcast, tombstone epitaphs. I would say that mine could be, sorry, I don't really know. Mike Williams makes sense, but no. I agree with what you say. Yeah, it makes sense, but no.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
yeah,
I'm taking the Packers in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers too. I think the Chargers are bad. All right, New England at Baltimore. New England is a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is 45 points here. This is the toughest matchup of the year for both of these teams, and potentially like an AFC championship game.
Yes.
New England side of the ball. Who do we like here?
Man, so I own James White, but otherwise I own 0 Patriots, and I'm happy that I don't own any Patriots at this point. I don't know. Julian Edelman, you got to start. I honestly don't know. I'd rather defer to you on this right now.
So I think you can sit Sony, but I mean, like, Sony's one of those guys you can play if you need to, and you can sit him if you don't need to. So, like, I sat him for a combination of, I believe it was Breda and Mark Ingram this week. And Breda's looking like it's probably not going to work out based on this Thursday night game. But the thinking is that now that Rex Burkhead is back, the reason I was confident in Sony beforehand was that he was getting a lot of the carries, a lot of the goal line work, and also 2 to 3 targets a game. Rex Burkhead's first game back healthy, Sony got no targets. So you're relying completely on a guy who's getting all his yardage on the ground and, has been known to get vultured at the goal line. Fucking Brandon Bolden has stolen 3 touchdowns from him this year. So I don't love that. James White, I think, is a much safer play. I think his role is in check. I think that's completely fine. But yeah, Sony, like I sat him for Matt Breda this week. That's where I see him.
Right. And that's why I hated Sony at the draft time, because he was going with like late 3rd round value. And
yeah,
I think that this is where his value sort of actually is. And that's not a bad call, whether it works out or not.
Yeah, the only league I have him is the league where I drafted against all of my principals, and I start like this year I went like running back heavy in every league, took George Kittle in the 3rd round weird. In every league.
Makes me uncomfortable.
And every single league, like, I'm doing great in, except for this one where I went Devontae Juju first 2 rounds, and then like Sony was my number 1 running back. It's like, fuck, dude, this sucks.
It was funny because you did that, and you're always good. And I was like, fuck Walsh. He's not doing anything that he normally does, and I'm going to do everything that I always do and yield mediocre results the whole time and hope Walsh sucks. That was what I was going for. But like, so to your point though, just to bring it back to serious, is that I'm fine with fading Michelle, but where you took Michelle, you're probably in a situation where you can't afford to not start him. Who are you starting over him on the lower tiers?
Would you rather play Mark Walton or Sony Michel?
Sony Michel, just because he's done it.
Okay.
I've seen it.
I don't know if I would.
That helps me sleep at night, Walsh. You're talking about a guy that owns Mark Walton. Let me sleep at night.
I don't know if I would play Sony over him because Walton's going to get some passing downward.
Winning records.
Huh?
You have winning records in fantasy. That's why. Me, I'm like, I will be judged for decades on what I do today. But seriously, like, I've seen Sony Michel have success in sometimes poor matchups, and I think it's a good fade this week for sure. But I think if you have him, you valued him very, very high.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad matchup either. Like, Baltimore hasn't been a crazy good run defense or anything like that. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing that you could do. I'm just scared. Like, if you're saying New England's going to be a 2-man backfield, I'm all in on both of them. Once you get to 3-man, it gets tougher. So, and Burkhead only got about 19% of the snaps this past week. He wasn't a huge part, but I feel like that might increase this week, and that's also giving me pause. In the wide receivers, you're correct on Edelman completely. He's obviously a play. I think so here's a question. Do you think Marlon Humphrey travels with Edelman? Because I don't really know. No. He goes into the slot, though. Like, he has done that. He shadowed Tyler Boyd.
I think that'll happen. But from what I've, like, read, and I'll admit that this is not, like, my own take overall, just from my secondary information, that, like, I don't think their game plan is going to be shadow anywhere all the way around.
Okay.
They're going to try and, like, mix shit up, and I think that he will be on him in the slot a lot, but I don't think that that's going to be enough of a, like, shadow factor situation to equate that into the value, if that makes sense. And again, this is secondary information. I will not own what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But Dorsett, I think, is like when we were talking about guys like the Titans receivers or whatever. Dorsett's got the way higher upside, but I put him in that same tier of like Corey Davis's and whatever. That if you need a home run, go for it. But like if Deshaun Jackson's back and you own him and Dorsett, who are you playing?
Dorsett,
Christian Kirk or Dorsett? Well, he's already gone, so I can't really say.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would have been Christian Kirk there for me.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's a low end wide receiver 3 tier. I think is my point. And
okay,
it makes sense on paper for what you're saying. You're not wrong.
Yeah, that's fair, and I think we can both agree that he's clearly ahead of Sanu in the pecking order here.
Yeah, and he should be.
Yes, absolutely. So going to the Baltimore side of the ball, New England's defense has obviously been spectacular. Do not sit Lamar Jackson, for the love of God. Do not sit Lamar Jackson. And here's my reasoning why. I know the whole thing of New England taking away the number one option on the other team. New England plays very, very primarily man coverage. One thing that man coverage does not do is have people who are able to stop quarterback scrambles. I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar Jackson runs for 130 yards in this game.
Yeah, I am on board with exactly that. And this is like a way more shallow opinion. But do you remember like a year or two ago when it was like Bill Belichick and the Patriots against rookie quarterbacks have these crazy stats? Who broke it? Deshaun Watson.
There you go.
Like same sort of style quarterback, has the rushing ability, scares him that way. If you have Lamar Jackson, do not fade him. Expect that it may be on the lower end of what you want, but I don't think that you should be thinking that he's like a bust candidate. Like maybe he only gets like 20 points for you, but rip that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think your general Ravens starters. So I mean, Hollywood Brown, we're still not sure if he's going to play in this game. I think he's going to. I'm not necessarily trying to roll him out, but Ingram, yeah, Ingram and Andrews.
He hasn't played in like 5 weeks, dude.
Yeah, it's not worth it in this matchup for sure. He's a guy who may have gotten dropped in some leagues. He definitely got dropped in a couple that I was in. I tried to pick him up and wasn't able to. But he's a good stash going forward. Ingram and Andrews, I think you're rolling out no matter what.
Yeah, you have to.
All right, who you got in this one?
I got to take the Patriots always. I love them.
I'm going Baltimore outright. Baltimore wins this game.
Don't hate it. I mean, the Patriots, like before when I said Dolphins aren't going 0-16, the Patriots aren't going 16-0. So,
yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I think Baltimore's a tough team to game plan against. That's
and also you own fat ass Lamar Jackson shares, so your bias is shit. But
yes, I am. That is also correct. And I also hate the Patriots. So let me have this one.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But you got to put that out there.
All right, let's move to the Monday night game. It is the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants. Dallas is a 7-point favorite. The over-under here is 48. Start all of your Cowboys.
Everybody.
Dude,
everybody.
Maybe even Randall Cobb. Like
everybody.
Yeah. The Cowboys are going to fuck up the Giants in this game. The Cowboys quietly have the number 1 yards per play in the NFL.
I got the Giants in this game. Flash forward. I got the Giants in this game.
You're gonna pick the Giants?
I'm gonna pick the Giants outright as well.
No way.
Yeah, because shit don't make sense. Shit don't make sense. Spooky, scary, dude. And the Giants have who just scored a touchdown? Dante Pettis. All right, let me just say real quick.
I don't know if he got his right foot down.
Everybody that has ever thought about Dante Pettis since your draft time hates what just happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I literally picked him up in a couple leagues before they traded for Sanders and dropped him when they traded for Sanders.
Oh, dude, it just hurts. Like Sanders or Pettis, like good, like theory-wise, when you drafted him fine, it's just like it didn't work. You dropped him. He sucked. And just, oh, God.
Great pass by Jimmy G there, though.
But fuck that.
Jimmy G looking good, dude. Niners are legit. Anyway, back to this game. You really think the Giants are going to win this game?
No, I just realized that I don't know fucking what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This game's going to be explosive, like you said, and I just think the Giants, like watching I think Daniel Jones will will rip against them, and Dak Prescott can make some mistakes, and I'm just a +7 or outright. I'm taking the Giants at home.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I said, this is pretty much a play everyone game. This is, play Daniel Jones, play Saquon, obviously, play Ingram, play Golden Tate. If Sterling Shepard is going to play him too.
Daniel Jones, I don't like as much. Solely because I'll say it this way, is that like I've been confronted with situations of like Daniel Jones versus Derek Carr, Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins. Like you're taking all those guys over Daniel Jones this week, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm taking Darnold over him for sure.
Exactly. So. Okay, yeah, exactly. So like, Daniel Jones isn't a bad start, but it's got to be like you gotta.
Yeah. That's fair. You're right. I was getting too overzealous.
Situations. So one thing I want to ask about the Giants, because you're doing Barkley, you're still starting Golden Tate, Evan Ingram. What do you feel about Sterling Shepard, who should be back this week?
I'm a little bit concerned in the idea that when he was performing really well earlier in the season, he was primarily in the slot. Now Golden Tate will likely be filling that role. I just don't – I mean, I know Darius Slayton's had a couple of good games, but I don't know how much I trust Daniel Jones to get the ball to the outside receivers. And I really don't know how much I trust Daniel Jones to make Saquon, Ingram, Tate, and Shepard all fantasy relevant producers. So if anything, I'm leaning towards fading Tate and Shepard if I can, and playing Saquon and Ingram.
Okay, that last point kind of hit home with me as a believer in what this offense could be fantasy-wise this year, is that it will be hard to make all of them relevant.
Because you would think, I mean, obviously Saquon's going to eat.
Yeah, Saquon's like irrelevant.
It's Ingram's gonna eat for the most part, and then you're looking at Daniel Jones making 3 pass catchers fantasy relevant.
So I like Sterling Shepard and Daniel Jones, like their like chemistry when he was still healthy, Sterling Shepard. But am I mistaken in saying that him and Tate have not played in a game together yet?
No, they have not.
Yeah. So okay. I was a guy that was really big on Sterling Shepard, and now I'm kind of fading off that based on what you're saying. So, fine, fuck. I might start Mark Walton in another league. Shit. Right.
And there you go. There you have it. Yeah, I think Sterling Shepard is a start that could definitely pay off, but is very risky because he's going to be kicking to the outside, and he has not played with Golden Tate on the interior. It makes everything a little bit hard. Fantasy football at this point is very difficult. I don't understand a lot of things, and we're just trying to parse through everything that we possibly can. So, Rodgers, we kind of picked this one. I'm taking Dallas by like a ton, by like 1 million.
I'm taking the Giants. But just to your point of unpredictability, just to give like the audience, if anyone's still listening at this point, just like I just went back-to-back 65-point weeks in our league and half-point PPR. I'm so scared about my knowledge and what I know is truth at this point. I'm very upset. I don't know what to do.
And sometimes that happens. And sometimes you just need to work through it.
I don't feel bad about it. I'm very sad about it. But, like, I'm okay with myself. And I can still talk to my mom and stuff.
Well, it's what you said was that, like, you look back at your decisions. You can still talk to your mom. You look back at your decisions and you're like, well, fuck, like I didn't make any egregiously wrong decisions.
Right.
Based on the information known beforehand. And that's the biggest thing. If you're looking at results, then like you're bound to get tilted every single week of every single season.
Right.
If you're looking at the process and saying like, well, how would I have known that? Should I have researched this better? Should I have thought about this matchup more? Then yes, maybe you need to make some changes. But if you're looking at things and saying, I think I did the best that I could, then like you did the best that you could, Right. That's about it.
And I guess the last thing I'll say too is like, if you made what you thought was an educated decision and it failed, don't be afraid to make the same educated decision again. Like when we talked about when I started Devin Singletary and it busted and then I sat him and it went well, like be confident in your own instincts and research, like based on what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
If it happen, you can still rip it out there.
And there's a difference between saying like being like, oh, I think I'm going to play this guy because like, fuck it, why not? Or like, I think I'm going to play this guy because it's a good matchup and he's getting X amount of targets per game and like this sort of thing. Like,
right.
There are differences in everything, but yes, what we like, trust in yourself. At this point, it's week 9. Trust in yourself. Trust in your decision-making, like your decision-making skills. And just fucking, if you don't trust in yourself, then hit us up and like, hopefully we'll make the right decision for you. I don't know. Half the time we're hungover answering those questions. So.
Right. And if you're like me and you fucked, you're fucked. There's no flat in the hole. Just be able to sleep at night, dude.
Yeah. I mean, you might not be able to sleep at night that much because you'll be seeing all sorts of ghosts and monsters because it's Halloween.
Halloween. I have 12 voodoo dolls and I accidentally made them all look like me.
All right, dude. You got anything else for the people before we let them go?
No.
All right, me neither. Thank you guys for tuning into part 2 of the Week 9 preview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully we got you some pertinent information. If you guys have questions, please hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the website, whatever you guys need to do. We'll try to answer them as best as we can. If we don't, I am sorry. We all work regular jobs. Shrek works nights half the time because he's a cop. Like things are, I don't know if I should have said that on podcast. Shrek, you can bleep your job title if you need to. I don't know. We love you guys. If you're still listening, enjoy your Halloween. If you did not, I don't know what I'm saying. We'll talk to you guys later. For Rodgers, I am Walsh. We are Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Later, podcast.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.